Thank you for coming to my channel, Compass Starlight. I believe that I'm here today to talk about dichotomy. So I had referred to a peer with whom I went to college. I described the energy body that I could see or experience, the God essence, beautiful and majestic, I said. The light energy, like the frequency emitted, the projection. I debated whether or not to remove that portion of the video for the sake of shortening the length of the video, but I decided to keep it, and I'm glad I did because I was thinking about something specific I said. I described the essence of this person as being a projection from source, like the spirit body moving through the individual was majestic and beautiful, while at the same time disgusting. And I could see this dichotomy in this individual. This was their God expression that I could experience, and that there's nothing you do about that. There is nothing you do about that. You accept the person, the godlike figure, as they are. Source energy coming through the person as energy, frequency, light. I don't know how to describe it. The closest thing I can come up with is like the moving fractal images we see, but also the crowns on a lot of the Hindu gods and goddesses, and the sacred heart and halos. The crowns on Hindu gods and goddesses. Yes, Kali. Kali, for example. The goddess Kali is like a goddess of creation and destruction. Destruction among other things, but there is a vulgarity to the goddess. And so when I said that the person, my peer from college, was both beautiful and also simultaneously disgusting, that is kind of what I meant, that dichotomy. And I believe we're all like that in some way or another. But it's not our place to judge. It's not for us to judge. Because that is in essence, not the essence, but a fractal portion, in essence, of source. And therefore, it is divine and should be honored. Which is a weird thing to consider in how we regard other people. It's not really our place to make judgments, but we do. What's important is that we don't hold the power to pass judgment on someone else's path, on how quickly they progress on their journey, on their path, in a three-dimensional sense, how quickly they mature, whether or not their deeds are deemed to be good or evil. I never really believed in hell. I don't really believe in demons, Satan, the devil. But I have at times really thought about some of the things that we deem to be horrific. Like, that's what I think about. No, I try not to. But as human beings having a human experience on this material plane, there are things and situations that we deem to be horrific. We judge them. And yet, if we believe in a higher source, a higher power, a God, or many gods, any kind of all-being, all-sentient, one source, even if that source is divided into fractals, it is still one. It comes from one, and we are all part of that one. So as such, anything that we can imagine under the sun, well, it's part of God. It's part of the divine plan, if you will. It's really hard to think about some circumstances or behaviors as being of God. But again, that's not really our position to make that judgment. I think more so is how we react to such things. So I also made a statement in the last video. It was the video to which I'm referring is the part 2, which talks about combing through and having integrity and exposure. I think what's happening is that this shift that we're going through is going to separate us, human beings. And I don't know what to expect from that. I don't know what that will look like. But I think that what separates us is awareness and love and the lack of empathy and compassion. I think a lot of us human beings would like to feel the blessings if we are given that choice. There are a lot of human beings that would choose to uplift or raise their frequency if they knew how to do so. And when I reflect on my peer with whom I attended college and the need to refrain from judgment, and actually I just shuffled out some cards and I see Judgment as one of them. Oh, the Empress. And the Three of Pentacles. Judgment. The need to refrain from judgment because it's not our place to do so. But what does that mean in your everyday life? This is good, this is bad. The thing that this person does, their behavior is cruel, terrible, horrendous, horrific. And yet, they all come from source, and they exist for a reason. The dichotomy exists for a reason. I don't know what that reason is, but it's all source, but we're not the ones to judge it. When we think about how we regard pets, for example, animals, you don't have 2 cats or 2 dogs and think about this one's really overweight and look at the way that they wear their fur. No. If anything, we take into consideration how their health may be impaired by their weight, their wealth, I almost said. But it's mostly because we provide for them. And when it comes to other individuals, we don't give them the same graces that we give to animals. But we look at people and we have these judgments and feel sorry for them, or it's just really weird, the difference between the way we regard other human beings and the way we regard animals. I don't even know this message. So the cards I pulled were the Three of Coins, the Empress. Oh, excuse me, it's not the Empress. It's the Nine of Coins. And Judgment. What is that message? The Three of Coins is generally about teamwork and building together in the material plane, manifesting something, building a future. The Nine of Coins is like having all your material needs met, knowing how to sow a seed, nurture a seed, to see it bear fruit, to see it come to fruition, to grow the crop. The point being that this individual has many resources from which to draw. And then the Judgment, the Rapture. Have you done good work? Wouldn't it be interesting if we could see people without passing judgment on them, thinking that we need to change who they are or what they're doing, right? Because everybody has their own path, and they don't. Generally, children do, but they don't depend on one another. Really, they don't. You don't. Yes, that is the key too, yes. So one of the things that I was channeling earlier was about immaturity and a way an insecure person behaves because of recently I had somebody contact me and I didn't reply right away. So the messages I got were like, F you, and I don't need you anyway. It was all very dramatic. However, and childish. However, I was thinking about some of my behavior when I was a teen, for example. I pulled that kind of crap. I lived in another country at one point and I missed my friends, and if I didn't hear from my friends in too long, whatever that was for me, because I was needy and I wanted the attention, I get mad. Oh, you forgot about me. What am I, chopped liver?
Screw you guys, I'm going home.
It's more about the self-love and whether you have that within or not. Because if you love yourself, you don't have to look outside for someone else to meet you there. I mean, like companionship is nice, and having people in your life who love you and support you is great. Having companionship and even having a partner is, it's something that's very valuable and can really help you grow as a person. But when I'm speaking of that neediness and gratification, that's something, I like to put it one way: you have to gratify yourself before you can expect others to meet you there. So with that neediness and that gratification and looking outside for someone else to provide that to you, like, you're always going to be frustrated and negative, dissatisfied, because what you really need comes from within. So this behavior of which I speak, that dramatic, childish, what can you call it? Feedback. Like, at this point, I can see right through it. But there was definitely a time in my life where I didn't see it, not in myself, not in how I interacted with others. But if you have that self-love, you have that security in yourself, you really don't need anyone else's approval to make plans, pursue interests, reach goals, make you happy. What else could we say about that? All of the goodness comes from within. All of the satisfaction and the gratification, it starts from within. And people you encounter can then reflect that back to you if they've met themselves in the same place. They've done healing and introspection and figured out who they are. But I would say that most people go through a phase at some point where they feel like they're dependent on outside sources, yes, for joy, happiness, reward, satisfaction, gratification. And that's what that card, the Nine of Pentacles, is about. The resources. Man, yeah, that's pretty cool. The Nine of Pentacles protagonist has all the resources. That means that that protagonist is able to fill their own cup first. They have the resources to meet themselves, to meet their own needs. And the Nine of Pentacles, the Pentacle suit being a card of the earthly plane and material goods, suggests money, food, provisions, right? A roof over your head. But it's more than that. It is the capacity to imagine, to think, to feel, to guide oneself spiritually even to a path that leads to bringing forth those amenities to you, to your life, right? You have to be thoughtful and prepared in order to bring money to your pocket, your wallet, whatever, to bring food and provisions to your table, to put a roof over your head and pay the bills. That's what that Nine of Pentacles has. It wasn't instant. I got 3 cards tonight. Let's see. I think it's 3. They just slipped right out. Where was I going with that? Oh, the childish behavior. Instant gratification. Insecurity. Yeah, but I don't know how I got from there to there. Insecurity. Oh, yeah. Because if you're secure within yourself, you don't need to hear back from that person. Like, you just go do your own, take care of your own stuff on your own. Leave it. Right? But our pets depend on us. Children depend on adults. Granted. But as adults, you have to be able to figure things out on your own. Oh, I forget how I got there. Also, man, my train of thought. Let me take a look at these cards I have. The first one is Theology, card number 30. For some reason, this reminds me a lot of the Empress. You see a lot here. That sphere is huge. It is the cosmos. There's a weight, a heftiness, not only in the scale of the sphere, but just the card itself suggests that, no, you can't go outside. The weight of things that are transpiring currently in the cosmos, the astrology. But that is not what the card means. Oh, and also there is the wisdom of the sage there on the back of the head, and the young maiden. You're going to distract me, Koi. The wisdom, the dichotomy. Look at that, the dichotomy. The masculine and the feminine, the youth and the old age, the wisdom and the innocence and naivete. But yeah, I'll get to that card in a moment. Oh, and then we have the servant. Card number 2. Yeah. This is a card about not acting for oneself, putting others before you. Man. And faith. Card number 40. Faith, loyalty, with the dog there. Koi. Excuse me for a moment. Alright, so Theology. This card here. It is humility. Trust higher wisdom. Is that wisdom imparted by our understanding of astrology? Like, time and time again, the patterns of things that happen with planets in the cosmos influences us, and we should learn our lessons from that by now. That's one way to look at it. Trust higher wisdom. The protagonist here is of 2 minds, that dichotomy. It's kind of what I was talking about, falling into that trap of doubt. There is naivete and wisdom, but I think the wisdom really is a choice to see it, to learn from your experiences. Again, we see that in astrology because the experiences we have when there is an influence of a certain planet over time has taught us that there are these certain patterns that are identifiable. Okay, so what kind of patterns do you have that have been going on in your own life that are identifiable? Have you learned the lesson? Can you break the pattern? Does the pattern need to be broken? Trust higher wisdom. I still see an element of this card being that you can trust your higher wisdom, your intuition, your knowing, and that how it ties together with the other card, faith, and also the servant. You don't want to be a slave to the patterns. You don't want to be a slave to the negativity and negative thoughts, judgments. You make judgments. Stop making judgments. Are they negative judgments? The judgment that says you're not good enough. You're not good enough. You don't deserve the thing, and therefore it couldn't possibly be yours. But your intuition, that's the dichotomy. The other side knows that it is meant for you, but you have a hard time believing in it. Is that right? I think that's what I'm picking up from this card. But with faith, being another card. So the servant one is like, don't be a slave to, it's like the devil energy, the bondage, which is the pattern of thinking that you are currently breaking, or if you've just broken, you're in bondage to this way of thinking, and now is the time for growth, and you need to break away from that modality of thinking or doing, processing, the same kind of habits, the same outcomes. You want different outcomes, you're going to have to change. And the reality is you already have the wisdom because you already recognize the patterns. It's up to you to change the patterns, therefore trust higher wisdom. Yeah? Do we get there? I think so. I believe so. The Servant. It is card number 2. There you go. Card number 2. Dependence. Always be kind, but not subservient. So when I say that you can... the children, the animals are dependent. Yeah. They're dependent for food, often for shelter, water, resources. But really, as a healthy adult, you should be able to be independent and secure in yourself. And in being secure, you do what you want. Not like, I do what I want. You take care of yourself. You take care of your needs. You don't necessarily acquiesce to anyone else's demands. It's hard in this time. But there's also, the dichotomy is, there's also an opening to shift that way of being or way of thinking. And what do I mean by that? I mean that there is a demand to work. There's a demand to go to work. There's a demand to go and punch a clock. But nowadays, there are more opportunities to bypass that way of living such that you don't have to go punch a clock. I'm just thinking about somebody taking their fist and punching a clock. But for work, you put your own demands on yourself. There are so many ways that we can work for ourselves now, and it's fabulous. But really, there's an independence there. If you don't want to be run by the man, it's kind of an old way of saying it, but if you don't want to be run by the machine of, you get it, you know what I mean, the machine of industry, the machine of like capitalism, the machine of like, I don't know, just there's this oppression that comes with punching a clock day in and day out. You're expected to do this with your time at a certain time. Personally, I don't like that. I love making my own schedule. Yeah, I still make money, but it's on my terms. And therefore, I don't feel like I am subservient. And yet, the irony is that I'm still serving people when I work. Okay? But it's on my terms. And I don't have to do it if I don't want to. I do it when I want to. So there's something to be said for, even though it says, always be kind, but don't be subservient. Something like that, right? Yes, there's something to be said for that. Even if you were fighting against the machine of capitalism, or however you want to look at it, you can still be kind while doing it. You can still be kind while serving yourself. So this is to say, when you're taking care of yourself and you're doing your own thing, and being responsible for yourself and secure with yourself, you don't have to be a jerk about it. You know, like, there's a way to be selfish with your time, your energy, your investment, without being a jerk about it. But, if somebody says, hey, can you give me a ride here? It's always your choice whether you want to give them your time. Do you want to give them a ride? Can you? Are you going that way? Is it an inconvenience? And if it is an inconvenience, you can still choose to do it or not. And if you choose not to, what does that mean? That you have your reasons. Because maybe your time is valuable, and you're going to do other things with your time. Or, if you're literally giving somebody a ride somewhere, gas costs money. But I'm just saying, there are situations where people place demands on us or ask of us more than maybe we are willing to give. And if we refuse in some way out of self protection, that's perfectly valid. But you can be kind when you're refusing those orders, those demands, those requests. If it means, oh, I can think like, yeah, if somebody wants you to come visit and like, yes, I'm thinking like family, go visit family. But if it brings out toxic behavior from yourself or from other members of your family, it's in your self-interest to protect yourself from exposure to such circumstances. I mean, that's a big deal right there. And probably that's the reason why I was meant to say that. It doesn't have to do with going to visit family. When you go anywhere, are you protecting yourself from negative or toxic experiences? We're talking about self-protection because there's a part of you inside that is a little child. And now, as an adult, it is your job to protect that little child within you, especially if you've done a lot of healing work on yourself, healing your own childhood trauma. There's that little child that's a part of you that it's now your duty to protect that child. So why would you put your child in danger? Why would you bring you get the idea. Why would you put yourself in situations that make you uncomfortable, drain your energy, take advantage of you or your resources? Hopefully you get the idea. Faith. Faith is card number 40. Adopt the wisest and noblest ideas. This is kind of what I was saying about finding a way to the good to the good place. I've been trying to convince somebody I know to watch that. Finding a way to raise that frequency vibration. Adopt the noblest traditions. So how can you behave in the noblest of ways, which also means honoring yourself? Honoring yourself means taking care of yourself and your own needs, taking care of your spiritual self, taking care of your emotional self, also taking care of your physical body, protecting it, strengthening it, but also with that dog at the bottom there, fidelity, loyalty. That is being loyal to yourself. And additionally, where's the loyalty piece come in? Living for yourself, right? I think I already said that. Not being subservient. Being loyal to yourself and your own. That's also that part where we talk about having faith that you're going to get the best. Right? If something's for you, have faith in that, have confidence in that. That's having loyalty to such an idea. When you let the negative creep in and the doubt that you don't deserve it, right? That cycle. We're breaking that cycle. Honor yourself. Alright. Man, that was a challenging message to pull out of myself tonight. But yes, that's the message. Thank you for coming to my channel, Compass Starlight. Hopefully you got something out of the message.